Hey everyone, welcome to the Fortress of Solitude podcast. I'm your host, Sergio Pereira. And guess what? Today we will not be charging you $20 to hear our review of Zack Snyder's Justice League. So on the line, I have the editor of Fortress of Solitude, obviously, Jarrod Saunders. And we were lucky enough to be given a pre-screener to watch the infamous Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool that we got to do it. Like, I mean, we've been looking forward to this for ages. I mean, we've openly said that we are big fans of Zack Snyder's work, and I mean, we've been covering it for like forever. I mean, you started Fortress of Solitude because of Man of Steel. Am I right?
Not really, but I will say yes.
I'm pretty certain you told me, oh yeah, it's because of Man of Steel that I wanted to start the site, but whatever.
No,
like, obviously you lied to me.
No, that wasn't true at all.
You see, this is what happens, our conversations. He lies to me all the time. So every time we have his little chats, it's all about lies. But anyways, we are huge fans of Zack Snyder and obviously the work he's done. And we've been following all the developments, obviously, of the theatrical cuts and then what ended up happening afterwards, the release of Snyder Cut movement. So yeah, it was a big deal for us to actually get to see this movie. And, you know, the thing is with something like this, it's been ongoing for 4 years and it builds up this expectation and a sort of hype.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, like these movies, you know, you always build up a certain hype that you'll never be able to match it because you're like, oh, this is something, you know, beyond belief and whatever. And then obviously it comes out and it struggles to match that expectation. But Jarrod, what was your first thought after you finished the 4 hours of the Snyder Cut?
Let me rewind just for a second. For the nights leading up to receiving this screener, I slept really badly because I kept checking my email like at 2 o'clock in the morning, at 4 o'clock, in the morning. I'm waking up at night trying to check if they sent this thing. And the one on Sunday morning when I woke up, I think it was like 5 or 6 o'clock, to check again, and it came. I was like, oh my goodness, it's here, it's happening. I'm finally going to see this movie. You know, we've been talking about it since 2017, since the release of the last one, you know, the Whedon cut, we'll call it.
Yeah, Justice League.
Yeah. We've been talking about it since then, and and as I started to play, as I started to watch it, you know, I was like, oh my goodness, please be good. Because if this is not good, I've just spent the last few years writing about this thing, about, you know, telling people about the Snyder Cut. And if it's not good, I'm going to look like an idiot. And, you know, the opening moments of the film, when it starts, you know, and it's completely different from what we've seen before. It's a completely different, you know, there's different scenes we haven't seen before. And I was already like, oh my goodness, this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted to see, you know. This is exactly what we expected from the Snyder Cut. It's bigger, it's better, it's got everything that you were expecting. It's just, yeah. And by the end of it, like when I got to the end of the film, I was like, oh my goodness. I just spent 4 hours watching, which took up a long time, right? I mean, it took like nearly the whole Sunday to watch. But by the end of it, I was like, oh my goodness, this is something I would have loved to have watched at the cinema. It would have been just so epic to watch it at the cinema.
No, I mean, that's exactly the same feeling I had. Like those 4 hours after I was done with it, I was like, give me more. Like that's literally how I felt, you know, like it was, I think somebody described it online that they said it's very reminiscent, like the way, obviously because of the parts and stuff like that, it feels like Game of Thrones, like the way you're watching it, the way it's set up. And I tend to agree. It's actually done really well. Because the thing is, you know, and I mean, I've been open about this, I've said it, you know, the Justice League theatrical cut, there was a lot of stuff there that you saw that, you know, you could see there was a good movie somewhere there. Like there was a movie that was shot that was like, it was good because there were some scenes there that you were like, whoa, this is pretty cool. But then there was a lot of stuff that was kind of, you know, put together and obviously, you know, for lack of a better word, marvelized, you know, because they wanted to obviously get it closer to an MCU sort of movie. Yeah. And I remember like seeing stuff, I'm like, no, man, you know, if they just committed to this and you never really understood, like, you know, who it was or what is happening. But the funniest thing is I've actually realized that there are some scenes in, the theatrical cut of Justice League that Snyder had actually shot first, and then Joss Whedon had reshot some of those exact same scenes. You look at it and you think to yourself, and it's so much worse. And I mean, I also understand. The fact is, I mean, he was also working. I mean, let's be realistic here. We also can't, slate him too much for this. He also had I think 6 months before release to literally reshoot, 80% of a movie. So, you're not going to be able to go on location. You are going to be using a lot of green screen. But there were some things, and you're watching this and you're like, why in the hell did anybody at Warner Brothers think this was a good idea to reshoot certain things? Like, even, for example, that when Bruce Wayne meets Aquaman, that whole scene, there was nothing wrong with that. And this is what I don't understand. It's like they always go on, oh yeah, Snyder's vision's too dark, and it's like this and this. And you watch the theatrical cut and you're like, why are you showing us this when this was shot? Like, there's literally nothing wrong with it. And I kind of, I think we spoke about this earlier. It kind of feels like a middle manager. Like, they don't have anything to do, so they have to make themselves busy to look important. And that's, I'm looking at Warner Brothers studio executives. I'm like, you guys are just a bunch of middle managers here. Like, literally.
Dude, the fact that he took on this job, right? Like, after you watched this film and he said, wait, I could make this a little bit better, or improve on it or change it. The fact that he took on this job after watching this is insane to me. That you have to be really ballsy to do that. You're literally taking a 4 hour, basically, in my opinion, a masterpiece, and then trying to improve on that in some way. It just doesn't make any sense why you would agree to do it,
But the weirdest thing is, like, what I don't understand is, like, all the things that he changed. Like, I mean, yeah, okay, I'm not going to swear here because I know you always tell me it takes longer to edit podcasts. But, like, he effed us up, like, so badly. Like, even the jokes. I mean, it was literally, like, you look at some of the humor and, like, the brunch jokes and stuff, like, and you kind of look at what Snyder did. Like, I mean, there is humor there.
And the jokes are there, yeah. The jokes are in there already. Like, some of the jokes he even reshot. Like the joke where Batman is sitting in the car and he says, and Flash asks him, what is your superpower? And he says, I'm rich. You can see he reshot some of that scene. It just doesn't make any sense. Why would he do that? Like,
there's certain things that just don't make sense that you can see that have been done, and even like I said, like some of the rewrites that he made of the jokes, they weren't that funny, and that's what I mean. It's like you look at some of the humor and it wasn't that forced. I mean, I thought Ezra Miller's character he was pretty funny. I thought even some of the clips from Batman, it was like it wasn't forced humor. It all felt natural.
Yeah, the irony is that this version is funnier than the funny version, right?
Because I think the thing is it connects with you more emotionally. Like, the thing is it's natural. Like, I mean, no one ever minds in a movie. And I mean, we all see it. Like, you can have the most hectic drama piece or thriller and, there's a joke in it, just to ease the tension, and it's done well. And it's fun. It doesn't need to be like, basically an action comedy. I mean, this is not an Eddie Murphy movie, but it's like literally the way that they did it. It makes sense. And the other thing, which I'm like, and I mean, I mentioned this to you off air as well, is the optimism and the hope in this movie. I'm like thinking, so Zack Snyder is supposedly supposed to be very dark as a director, but I got more hope and optimism out of this movie than I did out of Justice League. For example, Batman isn't suicidal or like, acting like, it's the end of the world. I'm so tired of this, Alfred. I want to die. Batman is literally like, you know what? I have faith. He's been inspired by Superman. He's regretted his actions from Batman vs. Superman. He's like, you know what? I see what he did for the world. He's inspired me to be a better person. And that's literally, I can't understand it.
Yeah, while everybody else is like down and like, how are we going to do this? This is impossible and all that. He's like, no, together we can do this. Like, together we can defeat these guys. These guys have never fought us united, like, dude, it was very cool.
And it's mind-boggling, like I said, because I've said before, like, one of the things I did not like about Justice League effectively was the treatment of Batman. I thought, you know what, it turned him into a cartoon character, like literally. I mean, yes, okay, he is based on, a comic book character, but it literally, he was very cartoony and these quips. And I was like, no wonder Ben Affleck wanted to leave. I would have wanted to leave too. It's like, it literally was from this badass in Batman vs Superman. And yes, he's going to need some character development. He's going to need to mellow. He's going to need to understand about hope and optimism. But you look at the way he's treated here, and it's respectfully treated. You can see the evolution of the character, and even all the other characters that you see, even Henry Cavill's Superman. Like when you actually see him rise, it feels epic. It feels it's everything you wanted it to be. Not some like mustache, like bad mustache editing and this is what I just don't get from me. Is like, how did the studio executives look at this?
Yeah, and the other thing that's cool is that Batman isn't sucking up to Superman the whole way through this version. Like he believes Superman can help him, but he's not like to the point where you're like, this guy's just being weird now. Like in the Whedon version, there are parts that I go like, would Batman actually say that? That seems so weird. It's so un-Batman-like.
Or the part where he's smiling.
Yeah,
like to be so Superman flies.
Yeah, to be so obsessed with Superman, it's weird. Like.
Yeah, I mean, from wanting to kill him to basically wanting to be, super friends, effectively in the space of like,
more.
Yeah, exactly. It just felt so weird, like just to see, that version. And this one, it treats it like respectfully. It's like even when Bruce Wayne encounters Superman for the first time, and there's obviously this tension there, like there's still tension, but he doesn't back down as well. He knows this guy's a superpowered being. He knows he doesn't have his Dark Knight Returns metal suit on, but he still doesn't back down. He still doesn't think to himself, you know what, I'm going to go hide now because, this guy's going to destroy me. He still faces him head on, and he tries to, connect with him and do something. But it kind of shows that Batman's character is like, you know what, I'm not going to, basically fall apart or go hide. Like, in Whedon's version, like, I'm getting too old. I'm bruised. It's very comedic. And like, maybe for something like the Avengers, what they were going for in certain parts of the characters, that would work. But I always found it just didn't work here. And this is the funniest thing that I was actually encountering, I was reading some of the reactions online as well. And I saw some of the, obviously, like a lot of fans are freaking out, and, you've got a lot of people who deny the Snyder Cut ever existed. Suddenly they've got a lot of, opinions about it. But I mean, the funniest thing is that you haven't read any negative opinions. They've been like, oh yeah, it's actually much better than theatrical cut. Like literally no one has said that the theatrical cut is better, which is like, it's a start.
I don't think anybody would say that afterwards.
Yeah, but I mean, you kind of see like a lot of this, like a lot of these bloggers and tastemakers, they flip flop all the time, on what's actually going on. But one of the best comments I read, and I actually had to laugh for a second, is someone said, oh yeah, no, it's a good movie, but Snyder still doesn't understand these characters. And I was like, you, my friend, are dead wrong. Because again, it's like somebody read an encyclopedia that had Superman and Batman in it, and they think that this is the version, or somebody grew up in the 90s and they watched Batman, the animated series, and do not understand the history. I think Snyder understands his characters a lot better than what people think he does. But what he does is he chooses how he wants to focus on it. It's like, for example, this Batman is the Dark Knight Returns Batman. This is a Frank Miller Batman. Superman as well. We are probably seeing a Superman from the 80s, like when the 80s or 90s, when the Man of Steel, like the series first started, when they rebooted to retell the story. And it's a little bit different, but he picks from certain eras that he identifies. And this is what I'm saying, is like, you can kind of see sometimes people's age that they just identify with, like, oh no, it's just like, I only want to see Superman the animated series. That's the only Superman I know. It's like, cool, man, that you identify with that. That's your first introduction to the character. It doesn't mean that is a definitive version of the character. And with these characters, I don't believe that exists. I don't believe definitive version exists. This is not a case of, oh yeah, Superman needs to smile 5 times before he takes off or whatever. It doesn't exist. It's not what it's like. He's existed differently throughout the eras. I mean, you go read the comics originally from the start, like when you go back to the Schuster and Siegel era, and that Superman is very much different from the Superman we see on, for example, Superman and Lois.
For sure. And the other thing is, you could tell from this film that Snyder took notes from Warner Brothers. He took notes from fans also. Like there's changes to the characters, that make them more likable, or make them, Batman isn't as angry as he is in Batman versus Superman. He's a little bit more likable as a character in terms of his development and all of that. And you can see, even by the fact that he added some humor, it's not as dark. It doesn't make you feel as, dirty. You can see that he took feedback from studios and from fans, basically, who complained. So I going back to what you're saying about him understanding the characters, very much so, because he's basically given us, I would say this Batman is slightly different from the Batman, from Batman versus Superman. So I think, to me, this Batman felt more like Michael Keaton's Batman, I would say. There's something there that's similar to that, even they even have a little bits of the music in there when he shows up, from Keaton's Batman. So I think that was pretty cool.
What we see, what I think is like done quite well here, and it's something which I don't think a lot of people seem to understand, and I think it's because of our generation now that it's instant gratification with everything we do and everything we do in media, investing time, and it's like, for example, somebody compared it to, like, if you were to release Star Wars, the original Star Wars saga, like today, and you kind of look at, for example, how the Star Wars movies were released. It's a story. There's a saga. It's like the same thing with the Snyder, the Snyderverse here. We know it was supposed to end with Justice League 2 or 3. So it starts from Man of Steel and it's supposed to end there. So there's more story inside. So the way a movie ends, you haven't got the full story. It's installments of a full story. But, we want like instant gratification. We want exactly what we want. And you kind of see, you start off with a Superman who's very unsure of himself in the world. He encounters an obstacle in Batman. Batman v Superman. He sacrifices himself for the world. He comes back in Justice League, reborn. And, he's a symbol of hope, effectively. He inspires everyone around him. Everyone just cannot get enough of Superman. Like, you can feel his loss. You can feel his presence throughout the entire movie. And obviously, in something like Justice League 2, we don't know, obviously, if the plan was obviously Darkseid. He was going to, succumb to the anti-life equation and become part of that, become part of Darkseid's, evil guys. And that was the main plan. But then, obviously, Batman will also need to inspire him and do certain things. So there was a whole saga there. And I mean, there's more story. And this is what I always say. You look at, for example, The Empire Strikes Back. That way that movie ended, if that movie was released today, it would be exactly like The Last Jedi. It would be released. It would be received exactly the same way. Why do we do this? Why is there reveal that Darth Vader is Luke's father? That's so stupid. Why haven't we explored? Why does it get on the cliffhanger? And I think that's the point. We need to let things sit for a while. And I mean, Snyder actually released an interview recently with New York Times. And besides the fact that they tried to bait him into answers that, you could see what they wanted him to say, he gave very good answers. And he said that because I asked him about Batman vs Superman and, seeing like the likes of Aquaman and, everything else do really well. And he said, like, the one thing he said that, stuck with me, like they said, do you feel a bit sad basically that your movies are not doing that or whatever, or don't have it? And he's like, no, it's like he's super happy for everyone else. But the fact is this, it's like he doesn't want to make popcorn movies. Yeah. He wants to make movies that, make you think, that might agitate you, make you feel something. And I mean, this is something that, Scott Snyder said on our podcast last week as well. He's like, he wants a comic book movie that makes him feel something. Yeah, whether exactly. He's upset, whether he's happy. You want art that provokes you, something that does something to you. You don't want to go watch a movie where you know exactly what's going to happen. And you know what, there's a place for that. There's a place for popcorn cinema. There's a place for all of that. But it's also okay to have these sort of movies which take a mythology and they deconstruct and reconstruct stuff and make you think differently. I mean, I was super enchanted. Like I've always said before, for me personally, I've always preferred Batman when he's not part of the Justice League, because I just find that, he's always the least powered superhero going to cosmic battles. And I always find, it's kind of, he feels like he's a bit of a backseat driver there. He's just like not doing much.
He's running around in the back.
Yeah, exactly. But the way they treated him here, and with the mythology and the Steppenwolf stuff with Apocalypse and coming to Earth, I was like, man, I was invested in this for like a very long, I haven't been in a very long time. And like I said, there's like Game of Thrones, epic scale that you see this world building, you see Green Lanterns, you see the Amazonians, Atlanteans, everything. And you're like, man, this is the Justice League movie that I was hoping. And the other thing that we haven't touched upon yet, Steppenwolf, he's actually got a motivation here. You don't know what he's doing. It's like, I want to get this for Darkseid. Okay, cool. You're a lackey. You're basically like Bebop and Rocksteady, but what's your purpose?
Yeah, exactly.
And here it actually shows that, he wants to get back in Darkseid's good books. And, you see the dynamic there and you're like, man, like for me, that was something that was very important that was lacking in the theatrical cut. And I think that all the things that were missing just made it a completely different movie. So,
But that's the case with a lot of the movie. Like even there's this scene where they fight down in like a sewer, right? Like it made no sense in the Whedon version. But here it sort of made sense why Batman had this tech and how they actually used the tech to get out of the situation. Yeah. Like it's weird, like how they cut up parts of this movie that made no sense. Like, yeah,
that's the thing. There was a good movie there that they obviously chopped and changed. Like, I mean, you will see some scenes. Obviously, the color grading is different and the music is different, obviously. But you will see certain scenes that you recognize from Justice League, but they're not. It's not the full scene. It's like you see things that have been cut and spliced. And it just, like I said, some things just don't make sense. And the funny thing is, though, and this is what I'm going to say, is that the Snyder Cut is 4 hours. There's absolutely no chance that 4 years ago Warner Brothers would have released a 4-hour movie into cinema.
There's no way they would have done that. Yeah.
And there are parts in this movie that you could cut. You can see how easily this movie could fit into 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours max. Yeah. And I think that Snyder could have easily have done that working with Warner Brothers. I think this is obviously his unfiltered version. This is his director's cut. Like, here you go. Here's my movie. What do you like? What do you don't like? And then obviously the studio provides notes and like, we can cut this scene. We can cut that. And that's fine. You can work with that because there are scenes here that do carry on for quite long and it provides a full picture. For fans, it's great.
Yeah. There's a scene where Aquaman dives into the water and he's swimming away and these ladies come out and they start singing. I was
the traditional thing. That could have been cut.
What's happening here?
That could have been cut.
I understand. Cool. It's very cool, but it wasn't necessary,
Yeah, but I mean, that's something that could have easily been cut, and that's not a problem. You could have, cut off probably 30 seconds to a minute there of runtime, which is fine. There are a lot of scenes like that you can, I mean, the whole epilogue as well, you could have left it, it could have been carried on in the next, it's fine. There are lots of moments, but this is what I mean. It's like, they allowed Snyder, obviously, here you go, release whatever you want. And he's like, okay, cool. Here's my director's cut effective. This is everything I wanted to do, what I was allowed to shoot. And that's cool. But this is what I don't understand. It's like, even with those 4 hours and he could have trimmed down to, let's say 2.5 hours, and they chose to go in the direction they did, 4 years ago. And I'm just like, man, I'm glad that those people are gone. Like, seriously, because those were like seriously bad decisions. And I just think it was all reactionary. And the funniest thing is like now, you kind of look at the reception towards Man of Steel, even Batman versus Superman online, and you see a lot more people now that have warmed up towards those movies and still talk about those movies versus, like the likes of Captain America Civil War. No one talks about those movies. They enjoyed it. But and it's fine. I mean, I still watch them. I enjoy them. I'm not gonna get on like my high horse here and say, oh no, that's not real cool movies. Like, no, I enjoy those movies. But the fact is, no one's talking about them 5 years later. No one's changing their perspective on them. And it's like cult classics. It's the same thing. It's the likes of like the Boondock Saints. When the Boondock Saints came out, go look at that movie. It's like 21% on Rotten Tomatoes or something stupid like that. And it got trashed. Nowadays, everyone's a classic. And the same thing has happened with Snyder's movies. And all that it takes is just a little bit of time to actually show, hey, wait, this guy was ahead of the curve, but he wasn't giving us exactly what we wanted at that time.
Yeah. Going back to something you mentioned earlier about the runtime, the 4 hour runtime. The funny thing about when I watched the film, it seemed like a lot of it was shot before. Like the only additional stuff he shot now seems like the stuff right at the end, which wasn't really necessary, which means that this guy actually had a full film that he went to them with, and they decided, let's get somebody in. So these rumors that that he reshot half of the film or he spent so much money in the movie and putting it together is a big lie. Most of the stuff that he shot now seems to be right at the end of the film. It's part of the epilogue. So
and I mean, the epilogue, if I'm not mistaken, I think is something like 15 minutes, if that. So I mean that's something that's super small, and so I don't know, man. I really don't.
So all those people who said the Snyder Cut didn't exist, well, it definitely did.
But I mean, look, let's be honest here. A director's cut is always going to exist for every single movie. So I don't understand what they were talking about, what they were smoking there, because the fact is a director's cut's always going to exist. It's always going to be longer than a theatrical cut. We've learned this. Like every single movie has that. It's like, it's kind of stupid to deny it exists. And they're like, oh yeah, but it's unfinished, visual effects. Of course it's going to be unfinished visual effects. That's like literally the last thing. The first thing, what they do with a movie is they cut all the scenes that they want so that they don't spend any additional money on VFX they don't want. Then they take it through to the VFX team and they work on it. Obviously, what Warner Brothers decided is like, oh, well, you know what? We don't like this movie. Joss Whedon is going to reshoot everything. And then, the VFX are going to have to be done in 2 weeks or whatever. And they picked up the Pentium 1s and they did all the VFX on it. And, well, no shame. I'm actually, it's actually not the VFX team. I'm actually being harsh on them because they were given unrealistic deadlines to execute blockbuster cinema. And there's no way they could deliver that.
That's true.
And, that's the reality. I mean, I think Whedon was put in a position here that was like he was never going to win no matter what. While judging by his alleged behavior, he also wasn't very pleasant to be around. I don't know, as you said, why he took the job anyways. When he looked at that, like, okay, how are we going to improve on this? And that's the thing. It's like, you've got somebody like a visionary filmmaker that like Snyder that's doing something that's different. Let him execute it. If you really didn't like Justice League, if you really thought this is not the direction we want to go, this was an opportunity to reboot it anyways. And I'm not going to give spoilers here, but there's an actual scene in the movie that could have just been used to reboot the entire DCEU effectively.
Exactly.
And it would have been easier to do that and say to me, okay, Mr. Snyder, thank you very much. We have decided to go in a different direction, but finish the film the way you want to. Only thing we ask is include this scene, please. This is all we need from you.
Yes, exactly.
And then that's it. And done.
Yeah. It was easy to conclude this thing as like a trilogy and just say, okay, thank you very much. You can now, we're going in a different direction from here. But they refused to do that.
But look, I mean, I still think, no matter what Snyder does, I think the fan reception is going to be incredible to this. And I think it's going to force, because Warner Media is different from Warner Brothers. Warner Media is basically being headed up by somebody different who seems to be a huge fan of Snyder and he's really keen to explore. So maybe there's a possibility. I think this could continue because if the fan reception is anything like I've seen, people are going to be demanding more, which is great for us. The only thing is that I think the narrative against Snyder has already been written. And I mean, I saw something today as well, like it was another comment like, oh yeah, it's a cool movie, but I don't want to watch 4 hours of magical boxes. And I'm like, dude, you watched 3 hours of magical rings or like gemstones, like what the hell, man? Here you go. The comparisons are just like, it's the same, and you're trying to act all high and mighty. Meanwhile, it's like, like I said, you've been like, showing Mickey Mouse everything you have. Come on, Mickey, I love you. Come to me, And meanwhile, like, here's another movie. It's like, judge it on what you see in front of you. Judge it like saying, okay, this is a cool movie. This is great. But I mean, that comparison there, I lost you completely. I'm like, because you're basically making a case for something that was done, effectively last year, year before. And you're saying, oh, no, I don't, I'm not interested in this. Yeah, but still, you're writing about Endgame. Like, I mean, how many hit pieces did you put out on that? So, I don't know.
I've basically been describing this Justice League as sort of a modern Lord of the Rings with superheroes. That's how it felt like to me. There's some really epic fight scenes that involve massive crowds of characters fighting on screen. It's very similar to Lord of the Rings in that way. But then there's also these individual stories that are happening. I think that for me is probably the best way to describe it.
No, I agree. And I mean, like now the final topic that I want to just touch upon, because we cannot ignore this, it's Ray Fisher's Cyborg. I was blown away. Like, I mean, you see the way that Cyborg was treated in Justice League, and I saw elements of like Ray Fisher's, like, acting in his ability. Then I'm like, man, this guy, you can see he was a centerpiece of this movie. He deserves more. And here, like, Cyborg is the character that stands out. He really is the centerpiece of the movie. He's the heart of the movie. And his emotional arc, everything they put him through, and the way he comes out at the end, and like, the hope and optimism that comes out of it. You meet a guy that's like, he's depressed about his life. He's lost his mom. He's lost his, ability to play football. He's, become, a cyborg, and, he feels like he's lost a bit of his humanity, and, he's angry, at the world for a reason, but he's also at the same time, you still see the person, the humanity in him. And by the end of this movie, you see who he's become, and, how he finds hope and optimism in this. And you just kind of like, Ray Fisher was just incredible in this performance. And I seriously think that whatever's going on now between him and Warner Brothers, I honestly believe Warner Brothers owes him an apology. That's personally, because the things that he's raised, the way that he was treated, the way his character was sidelined in Justice League, the theatrical cut, was complete crap. Because that was like, and he's raised certain issues. And I think that this is someone that deserves a future in the DCEU. And I think, in The Flash or wherever it is, Ray needs to get in on this, because he is super talented, and you can see he's got the heart for this, and the way he's backed Snyder the whole time throughout, that he's always had his back. And I mean, that's somebody that, that sort of integrity is what you want in Hollywood. Like, I'm tired of these people like being two-faced and, all this sort of interviews. Like, he's openly said, I had to come out and say, it was great to work with Weed. I take it back. But everyone else, like, in Hollywood, they're like feeling warm at night, dude. That's all they is. They don't want to talk out, and like, they're scared. But then obviously when somebody gets exposed, when you have like a Weinstein scandal or whatever, then everyone's like, oh yeah, I knew he was like this, it's terrible. I denounce everything. No. Have the consistency throughout. Even at the risk of your career, if you believe in something, if you believe somebody's doing something wrong, have the guts to stand up and say, look, this, and this. And I think that Ray's done that. And judging by his performance, like, seriously, we need to have a petition to get Ray, like, in the DCU. They cannot ignore him.
Yeah, he has every reason to be angry about this. I mean, if you look at the original script now, which is in this film, he signed up for this, really cool story, and in the end, what he got was like, he was basically a B character that probably wasn't going to get his own film. They cut that his arc so much that the character was uninteresting to people. Like, nobody cared. But if you watch this, like, his character is completely different. Like, the way he was so angry, and he was, he progresses into becoming human again. It is, I don't know what they were thinking.
I mean, the thing is, you understand, like, when you meet him and you see certain things, you understand where the anger comes from. But it's not anger; it's more like a fear of losing his humanity and sort of thing. Like, that actually starts, and then it builds up, and you start like seeing this character, like, all the power that he has, but he's still like, he senses, it's his emotion, it's the humanity in him. And like I said, like, you look at, for example, like the theatrical cuts version of the character, and it felt a little bit like a parody. It felt like a little bit of a stereotype of everything that tend to do in these sort of movies. And here you have a movie where he's given a proper arc. He's you see the emotion, you see the feelings, and I mean, even when they go into the backstory of like Cyborg and like, Victor Stone, and like there's a scene where his mom is like speaking to a principal. I'm not going to spoil it, but when she talks about what kind of a man he is, and it touches on upon like like a very important social commentary point there about what he's like as a human, and you're like, man, that encompasses who that character is. That character wants to do what's right, but he's obviously scared as well at the same time. He's got all this power. He doesn't know, am I human? Am I a robot? Like like that sort of thing. And I just found that this movie was definitely Ray Fisher's. Like, and I really hope that his time is not done. I hope that Warner Brothers, they owe him an apology. They really do. They like, they need to resolve this, because he's someone that deserves to have a future. And I don't want to see him just become, like an actor who disappears into the distance, and like, you never hear anything about, just because he stood up for what he believed in. And I mean, for me, that's the most important thing. I think, Ray Fisher, like, he came out of this, and man, he's a star. He really is a star. Hollywood needs to take notes, because this guy is like, he's super talented, and he's someone that you need to actually keep your eye on, and you need to actually say, you know what, this guy needs more movies. Let's get behind him. Let's just get him there. And I just sincerely hope that happens.
Yeah. And I think that's the case with most of the characters in this film. Like, even Wonder Woman, for some reason, seemed more like Wonder Woman here than she did in WW84, right?
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, she just felt more, like hardcore and more, that scene where she fights. I mean, it's in both versions. It's in the theatrical version and in this version where she fights these guys who are trying to kill the kids. I was blown away by how cool it's edited in this version in comparison to, the theatrical Josh Whedon version of the film. That to me is Wonder Woman. Not so much the stuff that they did after, like in the new movie.
Yeah, look, I think, the problem is that, and I think that this is the whole thing that, was created with the Justice League, fiasco effectively, was that a lot of characters, essentially got changed. I mean, like, for example, we can still see with Aquaman that they got the character, like, those little bubbles that they walk in to talk.
Yes.
And that obviously changed with the Aquaman movie. And I understand why they did it, because, stylistically it wouldn't work. And it's fun. I mean, those little sort of inconsistencies, you can kind of like let it pass. Like, okay, every director's got his vision, and that doesn't really bother me so much.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, you can see there were character changes. There were things that have been done to like lighten up, the DC characters.
Yeah.
And it's fun. Like if this is a direction they want to go in, they want to do things, it's okay. But like I said, I honestly believe there was also a little bit of an overreaction to when these characters first showed up. Like let the process take place. Let's see the full vision first. Then you can discuss, you know what? This character is not really, like, it's a bit too dark. I don't think that this character really works. But let the full vision take place. Because as you can see now, when we see the full vision, the full picture here, we understand that Snyder was right. And basically Warner Brothers, they just got antsy a little bit. I think they was too scared after Batman vs. Superman and Suicide Squad, and they literally went into middle manager mode, micromanaging everything you do, putting everybody on set. No, make sure he doesn't do this. I mean, even if you read some of the stuff that was supposed to happen, they didn't even get to film. Like we discussed it yesterday, some of the scenes like at Arkham where Batman's supposed to break Lex Luthor's fingers and, Deathstroke making a grand appearance. You kind of think to yourself, like, it would have made sense in the context of the movie. But it's like, no. We don't do that. We don't do that around here. Like, no. We've got to crack jokes about brunch. That's what's important here.
It's weird. It's like Marvel. I mean, DC tried so hard to be Marvel. Like they rushed to try and, to get up to speed with Marvel. I mean, the fact that we got a Justice League movie after, 4 movies is crazy also. Like, this should have been a process. Each person's arc was supposed to have, played out by now. And so when they join, we don't have to have a 4-hour movie. But now he had to make a 4-hour movie to, give reason.
Introduce everyone,
why they're all joining up, why they feel a certain way,
Yeah, I just think that's the lesson here is that it's the overreaction towards a franchise movie. I mean, Batman vs. Superman made $800 million worldwide, or nearly $900 million. That's nothing to sniff at. Yeah, sure, you expected $1 billion. Stop being greedy. Relax a second. Like you've made a really good, you've made some good return there. Yeah, some people didn't like it, but let the full story takes place. Let the process carry on.
Batman vs. Superman is also one of the highest selling Blu-ray films ever. Like, I think it's actually at the top. So they made more money after that.
So that's the thing. It's like, I just think it's a lesson here. I think the lesson of the Snyder Cut is that, the suits actually need to stay out of the creative process more. Let the creative vision take place. Yeah, sure, they obviously are signing their checks. They are going to have some input. We can't get away from that. But you know what? Like, to this point where they interfered, where they messed it up, where you actually see the first film and you see the film that was released, and you see the film that was meant to be released.
Yeah.
And you're like, Hollywood knows absolutely nothing about filmmaking.
Can I ask you a question though? Without going into spoilers, what was your favorite scene in the whole thing? Without spoiling it though, what was your favorite scene?
Oh man, there were quite a few actually. I mean, I must say, I really enjoyed the Flash's the Flash scene that was deleted, like that we didn't really see before. That was really great. That was really cool. I also enjoyed how the Flash played an influence towards the end as well. No spoilers. There's no Russian family, I'll just tell you that. He wasn't pushing around in the car.
I forgot about
that. Broken down. And so that scene, like for me, like visually what they did was
It's stunning.
I don't want to spoil it, but it's spectacular.
Yeah.
So that for me, and then obviously the history pieces. We've seen the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. Darkseid's, kind of arrival on Earth.
Yeah.
But there's also another. Let's just say it's a premonition, and it's not the nightmare that I'm talking about. It's a premonition that one of the characters has, and it shows what Darkseid actually taking over the world. Put it that way. And I'm not going to delve into that, but that was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
I think those
there's a character there.
Yeah, those scenes were my favorite too. Like, the future stuff and what could happen, what might happen in the future if we get a sequel. But yeah, those were very cool. And then also, like, some of the Wonder Woman stuff at the beginning, I thought was fantastic. Like, I actually sat up and I was like, whoa, like, this is kick-ass.
Yeah, and I mean, the intro to the movie, which you touched upon earlier, I think the way they did that is just like, trust me, you need to watch that. I'm not going to spoil that, like, to tell you, but like, it all starts making sense, and just the connection it creates with you. It's just, I mean, for me,
would you recommend people watch it at one shot or watch each part over 6 days?
I think, what, you can, to watch it in one part, I think, like a lot of people might not necessarily want to sit for 4 hours.
Yeah, 4 hours is a long time.
It's quite a long time. I mean, you're obviously going to take a break. But I think the parts are cut up quite nicely. So you can watch them like individually. Yeah. I would say, maybe even 2 days. You watch 2 hours today and then 2 hours tomorrow, whatever. Yeah. So that for me could work. But yeah, look, I must say, like, the 4 hours didn't feel very long. I really enjoyed it. I was just like, for me at that stage, the only thing I was worried about was like, because all the power cuts we've been having, I was like, oh man, is my laptop going to die? That was literally what I was worried about, like connecting to the UPS.
I had the same thing. Yeah, I was like, oh my word, please don't.
I timed it. You timed it, so connect to the UPS. I literally, like, my laptop had like 3% battery, and it was like, and I still had about 15 minutes to go. I connected to UPS. I'm like, you will last. I will finish this.
That's cool.
So, it was. For me, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think the film could have worked as a series of like 6 parts. I think it would have been cool.
Easily.
As well.
It could have definitely been released like that. Look, I enjoyed it the way that it did. It was really cool. So if you want to watch it as a series, it works. If you want to watch it a full sitting, it works. We're a binge society nowadays. We like to binge everything. So consider this binge worthy. Consider, instead of a 4-hour movie, consider it, 6 parts. Well, 6 parts and an epilogue. So 7 parts effectively. So it was great.
There's one more thing we have to talk about.
Yeah.
The fact that this movie isn't showing in South Africa. What a missed opportunity is that? Like, that it's not showing at the IMAX in South Africa. Like,
look, that
is insane.
I think it's insane. The fact, look, I know why HBO Max is not available yet here. It's because the international rollout plans, they take a couple of years. It's just the reality of any model.
Yeah.
But the fact that nobody's picked up on this, the fact that, Showmax didn't pick up on it, then Mnet didn't pick up on it, even Netflix.
Well, Showmax is trying apparently to get it. They're trying. But we are days away and they haven't announced anything.
Yeah. So. Look, Showmax, they've got the relationship with HBO and with Warner. So I'd imagine they would probably be in prime position. But I agree with you, man. It's like, it's strange. Like in South Africa, like not even a limited theatrical release, nothing. It's like
they flippin' showed Game of Thrones, the finale at the IMAX. Why the hell would they show this movie? Like, that doesn't make sense.
They showed that rubbish, what's it called, that rubbish Jarrod Butler movie recently, like, in the middle of COVID that nobody went to go watch.
Hey, I went to watch that movie.
Yeah, exactly. Only you would go. But like literally the rest of us, like, we don't want to watch this. And like, I don't understand it. It just doesn't make sense. Like, there's a demand for it. And I just, look, for me, I don't get it. The problem is the missed opportunity. The reality is this. I know it's going to be released on Blu-ray and DVD. I don't know when it's going to arrive in South Africa, because at the moment we can't even get some of the older stuff from last year.
Dude, Steppenwolf is struggling at the moment. This would have been the perfect film to get people to come back to the cinema. Like, people would have ventured out to go and see this, I think.
And the thing is, like, you're missing out on opportunity on streaming. You're missing out, like, the reality is, people are going to be putting on their Pirates of the Caribbean hat and watching it, and that's what's going to happen. And you know what? they've lost out on it. And I think it's a stupid business decision locally. I mean, I can't blame some of the people. Like maybe their bosses just don't understand how big it is. They don't listen to the hype. And, they're obviously trying. And like you said, Showmax has been, from what we understand, they've been trying. And I hope they do get it. But
I know a few other countries have also been struggling. Like I've seen people from Singapore and people from India complaining that they weren't going to get it. But like things were moved around and like somebody picked it up here and somebody picked it up there. But in South Africa, that hasn't been the case yet. Like nobody's picked this up yet.
I heard that they were going to try to release it. There's some in Dubai. I think there's some streaming service they wanted to release in Africa, but I don't even think we get that. We don't even get that yet. So, and I mean, somebody actually I commented on the tweet and I'm like, because I posted something about it, like for the EMEA region or whatever. This is where it is. I'm like, I've never heard of the streaming service, and literally like one person like from Dubai commented and said it's the worst streaming service on the planet. so I just laughed. I was like, thanks for the heads up.
Yes, somebody mentioned on our Facebook page that the film will be showing available to rent or to buy on Google Play in South Africa. So I clicked on the link to go and check, but it's basically like a wish list. I
hope it does.
Remind me. It's one of those tell me if when it's available sort of situations.
Yeah, we'll probably get it available one of the streaming services when it eventually airs on ETV, on a Sunday night. So everything else. But look, I mean, we just got to wait. I mean, we were lucky, we're fortunate. Everyone else, we are holding thumbs to all our South African listeners. We're holding thumbs that they're releasing.
I saw some angry followers on Facebook that were upset that we got to see the film before everybody else.
I don't blame them. I mean, obviously they're passionate, they want to see it. And I mean, I really do think, I mean, we do have relationships with Warner. We do have relationships locally, and we've been fighting for it. We've been saying, guys, we want to see this. And we hope that, with bringing more awareness through the podcast, through our reviews and stuff like that, they realize how big it is in the community. And trust me, guys, we are fighting, everyone, we are fighting for you, all of you, because we are just as much fans as everyone else, and we want to see this released in South Africa. So we are doing our best here, but I think it's time for them to also put pressure. Literally, maybe the release of Snyder Cut movement. Maybe they need to start going to those posts. Whenever they post, oh, we're showing this on whatever channel. Release the Snyder Cut. Maybe to do that.
Imagine they told South Africans that Endgame wasn't coming to South Africa. How crazy would have people would have rioted? It's it's equivalent.
Like I said, go and ask for it, but be respectful. Maintain that. There's no need to be hateful and, trash any of these places. Be respectful, but ask for it. Tell them, show them as a demand. Say to them, hey, guys, we want to see this. We want to see, Justice League, the Snyder Cut. We want to see it. Just, tell them that you want to see it. Because once they can see that, then they can go to their, superiors and say, hey, guys, look, this is literally every single comment that we got here. People are telling us they want us to bring it out here. This is good for us. It's good business for us. It's fan goodwill. We can do that. So, that's the only advice I have there. But Jarrod, man, thank you so much for joining me. We love the movie.
It's been a good chat.
Yeah, it's been really good. And to everyone else listening, we really hope you're going to enjoy the Zack Snyder's Justice League. I'm
100% sure that they will.
Yeah, me too.
I'm willing to put money on that.
Okay, well, you can speak to Jarrod about how much you're going to bet on this. And to everyone else listening, thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and to the channel, and give us a like if you enjoyed listening to us talk rubbish here. And let us know in the comments, would you like us to talk about anything else? If you were lucky enough to see the movie, what did you think of it? Just let us know. Until next time, cheers.